What's going on, everybody? And I hope you're enjoying your Hump Day Wednesday so far. This is NYG Jeffy T85 here, and I'm bringing you the BKN Game Recap for the Brooklyn Nets, as last night they took on the Minnesota Timberwolves down at BarclaysCenter as the Nets continue to see if they can lock up that number 6 seed going into the NBA playoffs. And for the most part, the Nets were in control of this game for the most part last night against the Timberwolves. The Nets were playing very solid defense. The Nets were getting it done on the boards. The Nets were making plays on the court that they needed to, but they had some players that were struggling from shooting the ball. And it ended up being the size of the Minnesota Timberwolves towards the end was just too much for the Nets to handle. The shooting of Anthony Edwards and the playmaking ability of Anthony Edwards, combined with just the sheer size of both Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, were just too much for the Nets to handle. And the Nets ended up falling in the game last night by the final score of 107-102, ending their 3-game winning streak. And the Nets ended up going 3 for 4 on this home stretch. Mikal Bridges, you look at the stats, and Bridges had 24 points last night, but he had an off game. Let's just be real. He didn't shoot the ball well at all. He shot 9 of 24 from the court. Bridges had an awful shooting night. He was missing his threes. He wasn't shooting for that high percentage he normally does. Bridges was not getting to the basket as often as he did before. Only got to the line 6 times, made 5. He turned the ball over 3 times. He turned the ball over way too much. That's one of the biggest problems with the Nets, and especially with Bridges. He turned the ball over way too much on the court. And you can't win if one of your best players is not taking care of the basketball enough. That's one of the biggest problems. Bridges had a rough night. I mean, he's not perfect. Bridges had a rough night at the office, even for scoring 24 points, which is not surprising. He's the best offensive player on the team, but he had a rough night at the office. It's just a shame. Cam Johnson, I don't know why he didn't get the ball more. Cam Johnson, I don't know why he doesn't get the ball more. He's been shooting the ball a lot better recently, and so has Dorian Finney-Smith. Both Johnson and Smith shot 6 of 9 from the 3-point line combined. Finney-Smith had a good game. Finney-Smith had a good game for the most part. Not a great game, but he had a good game going out there and giving good contributions. Shot the ball really well. Shot 50% from the court. And he had a double-double yesterday. 14 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists. Finney-Smith picked up his play recently. And Cam Johnson shot the ball pretty decently as well. But they just didn't get the ball enough. Spencer Dinwiddie had to become more of an offensive player yesterday. He had to score 30 points because Mikal Bridges just didn't have it yesterday shooting. But that size of Minnesota, between Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, was just too much for the Nets to handle. Those two guys had combined 26 rebounds between the two of them. 26. Both of them had a double-double. Gobert, 12 and 12. Towns, 12 and 14. Talk about 2 7-foot guys down in the front court. It's going to be hard for the Nets to be able to win these games if those two guys are controlling the court. And Anthony Edwards had 23. Jaden McDaniels had some nice plays on the court for Minnesota as well. Nets actually didn't shoot the ball that horribly. They shot 43%, 37% from the 3-point line. Minnesota didn't exactly have a great shooting night either. But the Minnesota Timberwolves got to line 22 times. Nets only got there 14. Minnesota was being very aggressive going to the basket towards the end of the game. Nets just continued to settle for 3-point shots. And the bench, the Nets bench is not giving them enough. This is becoming one of my biggest issues with this Nets team. They're not getting enough production from the bench. If their starters are not getting the job done, the bench is not doing what they need to do. Claxton didn't exactly have a great shooting night. He shot only 2 for 6. This is not one of Claxton's better nights shooting the ball. He did have 9 rebounds and he had 4 block shots. So Claxton getting it done on the defensive end and rebounding, like always. And he had 4 block shots. That's a typical Claxton type game. But he wasn't he wasn't giving them anything offensively. And like I mentioned, the bench did nothing. Royce O'Neal had an off-shooting night, only 2 for 8 from the three-point line, 3 for 10 from the field, 8 points. Joe Harris, invisible, only 5 points on the game, 2 of 4 from the line, 2 of 4 from the field or court, 1 of 3 from the three-point line. Seth Curry gave him a point. Day'Ron Sharpe and Cam Thomas, when they played, gave him nothing. They barely even played anyway. Nets pretty much went with a 6-man rotation for the most part a lot of this game. They got bullied. They got bullied by the size of the T-Wolves. And unfortunately, because of Miami winning last night, the Nets only have 1 game lead now over Miami. You could say it's 2. Nets have a 2-game lead now over Miami for the 6th seed. And with 3 games to go. And the Nets have a back-to-back game tonight against the Detroit Pistons. If you can't beat the Pistons in Detroit, you got serious problems on your hands. Period. You have serious problems if you cannot beat the Detroit Pistons, who have waved the white flag. They've given up. They've given up on the season. And the Nets need to win this game. In fact, they have back-to-back games against Detroit and Orlando. You're telling me that this Nets team can't go out there and win these next 2 straight? They better. They better. This game better not come down to the Philadelphia 76ers game. They can't. They can't have this game come down to them and the Sixers. That would be a colossal disaster of epic proportions. Go out there, handle your business against 2 teams that you are much better than, and get the job done. I do like some of the things that I'm seeing from this Nets team, though, on some aspects. Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith seem like they're getting their shot back, which is a very positive sign for this Nets team if Finney-Smith and Johnson are starting to shoot better. That's why I'm not as upset about last night's loss. We're going to lose some of these games, and I think Minnesota is a better team than their record indicates. I do. I think they got a very good trio with Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert. It's just they haven't gotten adjusted. They haven't had a chance to gel as a unit. And they're slow in the front court because you have 2 7-footers. But I don't think that team is as bad as it is. The Nets just got a bad shooting night from some of the key players. Like I mentioned, Bridges was not good shooting the ball. He was not good. Bridges had a very bad shooting night last night for the Nets. The floor spacing, for the most part, wasn't completely there either. They wilted towards the end of the game. Minnesota was starting to make some shots. And the Nets just ran out of gas at the end. Just watching some of the tape right now and some of the highlights. Nets made some bad turnovers towards the end. Nets made some really bad turnovers. And look, their old buddy, Taurean Prince, made some nice plays too. Seen Finney-Smith get banged up a little bit. Dinwiddie had to become the offensive force on this basketball team. But I like the fact that Finney-Smith and Johnson's shooting is starting to get back around into form. That's a good sign going into the playoffs. I think if we got a little bit more contributions from the bench, I mean, Royce O'Neal did have a couple of nice shots. Defensively, he did a solid job. It was just, we didn't get enough from, like, you know, the scoring aspect. But they have to make sure they go out tonight and handle their business against the Pistons. Plain and simple. Go out and handle your business against a team you're just better than. Go out and handle your business against a team that you should be able to handle very easily. Go out and handle your business against the worst team in the NBA besides the San Antonio Spurs and Houston Rockets. And one thing I'm getting frustrated with, Spencer Dinwiddie's got to stop with the goddamn complaining. Stop with the complaining. You are not going to get your calls. You are not going to get people to blow whistles. Dinwiddie is going to play himself out of Brooklyn if he keeps complaining like this. I'm sorry. Tough loss last night. Nets are now 43 and 36. They're a game above Miami for the 6th seed. You could say two games because they have the tiebreaker. All you got to do is handle your business against Detroit and Orlando. Even Detroit, and you got this 6th seed wrapped up. That's my BKN game recap. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Give a sub to NYGJeffyT85. More news, updates, chatter, and game recaps surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. Turn on the bell for notifications on the next video or short dropping on the channel surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. And let me know in the comment section what you thought about last night's loss from the Brooklyn Nets to the Minnesota Timberwolves and your state of the Nets heading into tonight's game. Second half of a back-to-back against the Detroit Pistons. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Hump Day Wednesday. Take it easy and let's go, Brooklyn Nets. As always, it's a Nets world, and we're all just living in it.